Hello, TCM4I family. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Break the Bread for our podcast. Very excited to have some special guests with us today. We do have our original team, TCM team besides Nancy, but for our special guests we have Melinda and Kyle. Thank you guys for joining us. It's very blessing to hear you guys and have you guys here with us again. So we're very excited. I think it's been a while since I led a podcast, and I'm probably very unprepared, but we're gonna have fun with it. I think for the last couple episodes we had a couple serious talks and some funny ones, and just a lot of good conversations going. And I like the direction that we've been going so far. So I appreciate everyone's hard work going forward. For my topic this week, I've been listening to a lot of spoken words and podcasts and just sermons, and everything has been just talking about identity and just who you are as a person. And I've just been seeing a lot about it, and just kind of put me in the mood of knowing who I am, and just how it all happened, and who influenced me. It's just because I feel like it's so important to really know who you are as a person and how you identify yourself. And so we're just gonna jump into the first question. We'll just kind of keep it simple and see how it goes. But what does identity mean to you? And then I want you guys to identify yourself. You can just basically give your own opinion about what you think identity means, and in the second part, you guys could just kind of talk about just yourself and your personal values or morals.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go ahead and start us off. So, I believe, the word identity is what makes an individual who they are. So maybe what you look like on the outside, as well as also your characteristics, your morals and values. And so how or identify myself. I identify myself as a Christian. And I know we talked as a team. We talked about this a while back too, but I just looked looked up my name just to see what the meaning of it was, and it means follower of Christ. So I identify myself as Christian, a follower of Christ, a woman, a Hmong American. I also identify, well, as far as for morals and values, I'm compassionate, a hard worker, and I am a human being. So those are my identities.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Adam?
I don't know actually, because I've been, just thinking about the word identity or how we identify ourselves. It portrays in such different ways for us to understand the true meaning behind these words, or what this word actually mean. Because it could either go two way. Identity is how we portray ourselves, or is it how other people see us as who we are,
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes down to asking, are we portraying ourselves as what people see us to be, or how they want us to be, or a certain way for us to be this see, I'm a manager at my job at FedEx, and the way we portray ourselves is that we're so professional at what we do. We get everything done, but at the same time, it's at the end of the day, I'm so tired of everyone that I'm just here to do my job, go home, and then be done. But the way that we portray ourselves at work compared to how we portray ourselves at home is so different, and how people see us in that way too. So talking about identity comes in so many different ways, and how we see this. And that already answered the second question, is how how I identify myself is that we go through certain aspects in our lives for us to like portray different parts of ourselves, you know, that like
Yeah.
all of that makes us all into this one person, that like who are we really on the inside, that like these different things comes out. You have like these different part of us coming out at different time as such different meaning to how we portray to other people too. So yeah, that's my little 2 cents on that.
Okay,
Cool.
so to me, the meaning of identity is the ability to be known by others by a certain way you present and hold yourself. I would like to think of it as a unique character of yourself that no one else can have or portray. And I'd like to say my identity as an individual, I like to think I am kind, forgiving, loving, energetic, and open minded. Um, my values are to push myself and others to further their dreams and goals. And my number one value is to protect and take care of my loved ones and those in need. And a moral I like to go by is if I wouldn't like to be treated a certain way, I shouldn't treat others that way either.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Thank you.
That's very good, Melinda.
Thank you.
I wish people at work treat me like that, but no.
Sorry, Jay.
Disney World guests are the worst. No. All right, Cheyenne.
See, for me, identity means it means who we experience ourselves to be. So, in a sense, like all the things that you've gone through and what you've learned through and through as the time goes by is what shapes who your identity is. But as for myself, I identify um as a Christian, an introvert, um, so open-minded, but sometimes I don't know, can be stubborn at the same time.
Okay, that's really good, Chang. I like that. I think. Oh, somebody. Okay.
No, you're good.
All right. Okay, I'm good. All right, I'm good. All right. I think for me, what does identity mean to me? I really think that identity to me is often a place where we function from or operate from. I think it's really like having different kind of driver's license. How all of us we use a different kind of ID to identify ourselves, and oftentimes use different ones to kind of describe what we are at the moment. I think that's what identity means to me. It's a place where we function from, it's where we operate from. Like if like a driver's license, that identifies us as a driver, and we often have a lot of other license in our life that kind of identifies who we are. And in identifying myself, I think I always try to identify myself from the identity that comes from God, and I always try to live with that kind of identity that God gives me, like just one identity, one license to use for my whole life. And again, back to that metaphor, like a lot of us, I think we have not metaphor, a lot of us have license in our life that we use different times when we get stopped by life in moments, and we take out those to define ourselves. But I want to identify myself as the identity that God has given me. And I always try to pick up that identity of who God is. And for me, it's really simple. It's just, since God is a good father, I want to pick up that identity of saying, hey, I want to be a good father. And now what does a good father looks like? A good father does this and that. God is a good friend. What does a good friend looks like? What does a good friend identify themselves as? And I always try to model who God is and what his identity says about him. And that's just how I sometimes identify myself. So yeah.
Okay, Kyle.
I know that's
very good.
Guys.
Exactly. Put the pressure on your.
everything Kyle said.
Times
No,
two.
That was a really good answer.
Oh, you guys are good.
Let's see if I can say the same things. I'm just kidding. So identity, I think it's just a it's a representation of someone, whether that be, you know, their, I don't know, nationality, their what they believe in, the qualities that they have, their characteristics, pretty much what you guys all said. And so I identify as a Christian Hmong American. I'm single, female, working class. Um, at heart, I like to think of myself as someone who's honest, hardworking, by the book, loyal. I can be conservative at times. Simple. I'm simple. I'm impatient, patient. Ambivert. But I really like what Kyle said, that, you know, I think that's the biggest and probably the most important, is um, to live your life as like how Jesus lives, you know, and just to be Jesus like, and I think that would really show in your identity to others on who you are, and like what you want to represent, you know. Yeah.
Well, I think everyone brought very good points. You know, I think that we all covered the basics meaning of identity. It's just basically, you know, keep short and simple. You know, it's who we are as a person and how we identify ourselves as our values and race and, you know, and everything put into it. Um, you know, I think identity has such a powerful meaning, or for everyone, like it should mean very important to everyone, just because like it's really who you are and how you project yourself to others. You know, for me personally, like try to identify myself as, you know, just a Asian male. But I think Yer brought a good point because she said Hmong, and I wrote down just Asian male, and so like I feel like I wasn't very descriptive, and now I just put such a broad answer. But it just kind of, I feel now like I feel ashamed because now like I'm not proud to be Hmong or something. But you know, I think, you know, I'm just a guy who's trying to survive in this big world, you know, to try to keep it simple. Like I just try to be a decent human being, which I feel is very hard in this world nowadays, with everything going on. I always try to do the right thing, but you know, sometimes you give into temptations and other stuff, and you just kind of want to be selfish here and there. But like out of everything, like honestly, I just want to be a good person and do the right thing and be able to, you know, give back to others and just be able to love everyone unconditionally, even those people who are very difficult to you and are just seems like you just don't get along with, and you know, just starting to love and care for them from afar. But yeah, you know, thank you everyone for your very great insight on identity so far. Moving forward to my second question, I know Adam kind of touched based on it a little bit about just kind of how we identify ourselves, as if it's through what others think of us, is it through, you know, the Lord's eye, or past our failures. So my question is to you guys is, you know, how do you think we identify ourselves? How do you and like how do you identify yourselves? Like, did you guys do it through? Do you guys see you guys yourself through the Lord's eyes, what other thinks of you, or your failures?
Okay, good question. So, the first part of this is, how do you think we identify ourselves? I don't really know how to answer this, but because I think like the world does influence our identity also. Like, but then again, I feel like we're created also. Okay, so for example, like if like we're all human beings, right? We're God created us, right? But like on Earth, like the world sees, I guess like the world gives you that identity. Like for example, Asian versus you know American or something like that, right? Or you know, you're broken into all these different categories, right? Asian American, etc. And then so I feel like it's both too. Like our identity is also given and created. Let's see here. So like he created us man or woman, right? He also gave us free will. So if um he created us, but then we could choose to be, let's say, like compassionate or not, right? We could choose to love or hate. So like those are characteristics too, and that you could identify yourself by those characteristics too, or morals and values too, right? So like I feel like that is created, but at the same time it's also a given too. If that makes sense.
Is your identity given or created? I would say it's both. So like us as a Christians, as a leader, we're given that title of a leadership already. We're born as a Christian. Well, in my life, I was born as a Christian, and then I became a leader. And the way that I portrayed that was, it was given to me, but I had it to create that leadership role for me to continue my identity as a Christian, as a leader, as, a home Christian too, that I had it to create that for myself, for me to learn to grow in understanding what leadership really is in the church and how to serve in the church and how to serve in all that. So yes, I believe that when it comes to identity, it is given, but you have to mold that, what is given to you, and in order for you to grow and learn into that too. And how I identify ourselves, like I said earlier, it depends on when we portray our different selves in different times. And I love Kyle's analogy of using our ID during when life stops us. And we use different, driver's license when it comes to that too. And it really does portray how we see life, because life really does give us an influence of, saying, oh, we're not good enough to do this, we're not good enough to do that. But we always prove life wrong by being an overachiever in what we do, and exceeding to the level of expectation and going beyond that too. So identity really is important when it comes to being a home Christian.
Very true. Good point.
Yeah, it's really good, Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Adam and Christy. I'd like to add to that in order to identify ourselves, I do believe that we can create our identity to some degree, and after that, our identity will shine, and others will notice specific characteristics that make an individual unique. That is identifiable, and then so basically, I believe that an identity is created and given.
I'm also in agreement with everybody. It's kind of where we start repeating a little bit, but I think most of your identity is given, and then what you experience through life, what you like through life, what you want to do is what you create, where you create your identity. Because some people like sports and some people don't. Some people will identify themselves as a super hardcore sports fan, and some won't. But that's all I have.
Yeah, that's a good one, Shane. I think how we identify ourselves. I think there's three factors that kind of pulls into that topic of how we identify ourselves. Is that we're always influenced by someone else's personality in their lives, and we're influenced by our own creativity of us trying to make something true about ourselves, and most importantly, we're all influenced by who God is. And I think all those three plays into one part of us trying to identify who we are, because I think at the same time we're always trying to live as if we're human, which is connecting with the world, and also being influenced by who God is, and identifying ourselves that we are a Christian, but we are called to reach the people, the lost and the broken, and at the same time trying to make something true about ourselves, that we are our own unique person, that we are our own person, that we have something creative about ourselves. The next question is your identity given or created? I think that is a given, that identity is always given and created. And when I kind of look at that question, I kind of came to the question of not asking is whether identity given or created, because that obviously is a yes answer. But the question that I came to is, how can we come to a realization of the identity we are called to carry? Because I really believe that identity is realized. Because at the core of every identity problem for me is, how much are we aware of who we are? Because God can say that you are a world changer, that you're a special son and daughter. But if we never believe that, if we never realize that that's what God has called us to be, then it doesn't matter what nobody says. It doesn't matter what God says. And if we don't believe that, then we won't become what God has called us to be. And it takes us to be aware of what God says about us. It takes us to come to a realization that God says this about us for us, in order to start believing in what God says about us. And again, like, it really doesn't matter what other people say, or even what God says, if you don't realize that God has said this about you. So I really think that's what it came to my mind when I read that question. That the question is, instead of saying is identity given or created, it's rather, how can we come to a realization of the identity we are called to carry? And I like what Adam said, like how once we've been given that identity, we start to create. And the only reason why we start to create is because we realize that that is our identity, and that's where we start to create and in our reality to achieving that identity that we have. So yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, I like what you
Mhm.
Kyle, I like what you brought up, and that, like, especially for those who may be struggling with who they are, like, who am I? Like, I think I saw something on Instagram once. It said, like, instead of asking like who am I, maybe we, like, to identify ourselves, right? Maybe you can ask or start asking, questioning yourself, how should you live, or how should you live in light of knowing who Jesus is, right? Like, you know who God is or Jesus is, maybe that will help you identify, who you are, right?
Yeah, it's really true. Yeah, and I also think that everybody lives in a identity from God. I really believe that we all have a sense of like who God has called us to be, but I think most of the time we're not aware of us, that there's still so much more in that identity that we have to live out. That we have to be aware of what our identity carries, the power that it carries, the things that God has called us to be. Like most of us, we only live to the bottom of our identity that God has called us to be. So, it's just realizing that God has called us to so much more, that we are more than just conquerors, that we're more than that. And that's really what I really believe, that, identity is realized. And once we realize that, we'll start to create a reality that kind of reflects our real identity from God. So, yeah.
Good answer. Man, I really like what you said. Again, it's crazy because, I wrote down all my answers, but now I'm just like rethinking it all. So I think we identify ourselves by, I think you guys all said it, who we surround ourselves with, who raised us, our friends, our mentors, our religion, and what we believe in. But you guys brought a really good point that at the end of the day, our identity is really determined by God, and what was I saying? Sorry, you can cut this part out. Okay. I do think it's constantly changing though, and I think that's just like it's constantly changing because we experience and learn different things in our lives. And I thought that, you know, I don't know if I didn't think this through, but hearing your guys' answers, it is true. I think identity is given and created. At first, I just went with created just because I think we do pick and choose and who we want to be and how we want to like represent ourselves. But
I get that.
but like what Kyle said, like we had to realize like who we really are in God's eyes, you know, and following God's words and just living that out as a human being. We should go and like, I guess, find it and find our identity, our true identity, through God's eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can I also add something else to it? I believe that, you know, because God calls everybody to the same level. Like, we're all called to disciple the world. We're all called to reach the world. And that's where the realization comes in that, because as we all know, there are so many other people out there who has the same calling as us, but they live in a different kind of power and identity than us, because they realize that this is what God has called me to be, and this is really what God has called me, and I really believe it. And I think that's the power of just really knowing from God and just realizing that God has given us all the same identity. It's just realizing how far we're willing to go up to that identity. So.
Yeah, I think I was kind of like you, where out of the two, I picked creative because I believe, like she said, like we pick and choose our traits because of who we want to fit in with. And I think it's brought a very good insight on just how our identity is given to us. Because, you know, like I said, like, I think a lot of us, we've mentioned like how our identity changes as we grow up. And just speaking for myself, like I know that growing up, I consider I was totally a different person than I am now. I mean, a lot of us can say that, but like, you know, because I used to feel like I had to listen to like a certain type of music to be hang out like these kids at school. I had to like a certain thing. So like, you know, you create this identity for yourself to think that this is who you really are. But you know, as you go through life and you kind of develop your true identity, and that just kind of comes out naturally. Because I think like growing up for me, like I was ashamed to like admit people that I love like anime or playing video games and stuff, because like that just wasn't cool at the time when I was going to school. And so it was looked down upon. So like I hid that away and I try to act like I was this very sporty jock guy, and you know, all into like hip hop and like just, you know, being this thug. And now look back now at how I've grown, and now I'm just this weeb and just love anime, and I'm like more open about it, and I talk to people more about it. And you know, so you really do just go through trials, and you really, you know, your true identity really will come out, you know. And you know, like Kyle always brings up like very good points about, you know, through God's eyes and how who you become, who you really are meant to be, and who He calls you to be. And I think for a lot of us on TC and Y, you know, when we've been called to like to lead and stuff, and I think, you know, that's just a perspective itself to say like, you know, like we ourselves may have not known that we were going to be leaders, or that we can identify ourselves as leaders, and here we are today. You know, I always talk about it. You know, who knew? I would never guess that I would be part of a church youth, part of a, you know, just a organization like this, part of TCNY, and just be able to do what we do and try to influence people, and you know, just be part of something bigger than what I am, you know. And I think that's just the beauty of life and beauty of how you really learn how to build your character. Yeah, but once again, everyone, thank you. Thank you for your great insights. Moving on to question 3. You know, we've talked a lot about just identity and some of the good parts about it, but I know, to me, like I think when you really start to discover who you are, you have to go through like a trial, like something to really uplift your life. I think failure is one of the greatest teachers in life. So, my third question to everyone is, was there a time that you ever doubted or disliked your identity, and why?
Um, this one might be a little lengthy for me, but I think I like as any other teenager also or younger adult, I think um I don't want to say like everybody goes through this, but I would say like um oh I did, especially like after out of high school going to college, you're seeing or you're experiencing um I mean, I guess you should meet people outside of your norm. And that was true for me. Like after high school, you just started meeting new people, experiencing new and different things that I wasn't sure. And I just wasn't sure if I was really living life for God or not. Um, like I know, like when I was younger, I was hung out with people that I shouldn't have been hanging out with, and as I grew older, I understood what my identity was in Christ. Like, for example, like I mentioned, like just being with like the wrong group of people, right? And I carried so much like um, I don't know, like guilt and just so much like shame, right? Because I was always taught that okay, that wasn't ideal for Christians to be hang out with like certain groups of people or doing certain things, right? And that definitely made me stray away from the church for a bit because I always thought, oh wow, like being a Christian is so or too strict. Um, and like that, like I felt like that just wasn't my identity because I just felt like I was always judged for that, right? Um, and I just didn't want to be identified as someone who would believe in God but be judgmental towards others. But I guess like no, not I guess, but I believe that I like just digging into the word and just really like after like being saved so many times in my life and just going through so many different things that God has saved me from and out of. I think I until I really like dug into the word and accepted who Jesus says I am, or God who God says I am. That was when I could really like identify myself as like free. You're free from judgment, from shame, and all that. And I know this might be cliche, but because it's from the word, like if the Son sets you free, then you are free indeed. And like that, I believe that verse was the one that saved me. And and God it does say in the Bible, if you love me, you would keep my commandments, right? And that gave me a new perspective of who I am. So, of course, I went through like troubling times too, but actually just really digging into the word and actually like, I guess as I grew older and I understood it a little better, um, I was able to really come to a realization of who I really am. Yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thank you for sharing.
Jay, I have two answers for this. You might have to cut off, like, if you guys want to hear both, you might have to cut off the first one.
Go ahead, just do you, man. Do you? We'll take both answers.
Well, for the first one, I just want to share with you guys, like yeah, you could cut this out. I guess, I grew up as a Christian, as a pastor's kid and everything. And, I really didn't like how everyone was all like, oh, you're supposed to portray this great family or this great Christian because you're a pastor's kid. Always got the judgment of everything that we do. It was always like, everyone was always watching and judging at the same time. And like growing up, that really was like the hardest thing. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't drink, you can't do any of this, you can't listen to a certain type of music because you're supposed to portray of how your family is as a Christian because your dad's the pastor of like the church, he's the head pastor and everything. And it's like you know, growing up, it was always all the judgment and everything. And I really like, it really did came down to, it was like, I started questioning, like, you know, why was I born to this Christian home? Why was I born to this, you know, like, I can't really do anything I wanted to do. You know, I was being so selfish in that too. So I like started having like battles against myself, and like not wanting to portray this, you know, this good Christian boy who like always goes to church and like, you know, do this or do that or like be a certain way. And, you know, they always say you can't curse because you're a Christian, or you can't do this. And it's like, it really does take a whole lot of you to like, you know, we're humans, to say, you know, we're humans, we're not perfect. Pastors' kids are not perfect too. Like, for other people to understand, like, we are not perfect because we're human beings. We cannot portray this certain aspect of how people want us to be, you know. So yeah, that's my first one. You could cut that out. So, you know, to answer this question, I grew up not having friends, not having a lot of friends, you could say. And it was like really hard for me to, you know, make friends. And I thought that there was a problem with me. And I didn't like that, to, you know, what Christy was saying, like, oh, you know, there is certain things that you can't really do when you're a teenager, you know, especially when you're a teenager and you want to experience some things. And it's like, you know, like, what is wrong with me right now? That kind of thing. It's like, you start to question it, like, how come people don't like me, or how come people don't trust me, or how come people don't ever invite me, you know, to go out or anything like that. And it's like, it comes down to saying, you know, am I not good enough to be friends with those people? Am I not good enough to, like, you know, just you know, that one friend, you know, like, that you just want to be really, like, that you just want to open up to, and you don't have anyone to open up to. And it's like, I started really hating myself at certain times, to say, you know, yeah, friends comes and go, but at the same time, it's like, you yearn for that connection with other people too. And it comes down to accepting that, you know, hey, it's okay, you know, because God is always going to be your friend, you know. Jesus is always going to be your friend. He's always going to be there for you.
It's really good, Adam. It's really good.
Okay, so I mean, like, so for, as you guys know, my siblings and I are like stick figures. So that's how they identify us, because we're so skinny. And like, I guess I've always hated it, because, you know, we don't want to be skinny. It's, we do try and get thicker. And so I guess I've always hated that. And so it's been really hard on me, especially this year, because I was going through something, and I got really depressed and I lost more weight. And my parents and everyone that knew me would question me, like, oh, are you doing drugs? Like, you look like a sick person, you know? And it made me really sad, and it made me hate myself more. It made me hate my identity, I guess, because people have identified me as someone skinny. So I guess after going through my depression, I realized how to love myself a little more, and I was able to get out of, I guess, oh no, I was able to eat more and learn to love my identity as how people see me as a skinnier person. I don't know.
I don't think I've ever really doubted any of my identities, but as for like what I disliked, I always kind of disliked being Hmong, not as in the race, but in terms of tradition and stuff like
Get
that.
it.
Cause
Get it.
That's a good one, King.
Damn. Get
yeah,
it, boy.
Right behind you, King.
like me and my mom, we grew up kind of Christian, but then we are also surrounded by like the the Hmong people who always and family who always did Jingle Bell and stuff, and so we would always go help out, and I always question, it's like, why are we supporting and helping if it's y'all are auto das, huh? So it's and my mom would always say it's because they're family, and I always understood that part, but it's also there's a lot of traditions that I really disliked about the Hmong culture and what they do, and so I always had a hard time as I grew up, and even now, I still dislike a lot of the things that we still have to do sometimes for the sake of saving face, because that's just how Hmong people are. They kind of like to save face and do it for family.
Yeah,
Oh
that's so good, Chang.
Yeah, I know
Like
you
right
brought it.
behind you, Chang.
Dang,
Like
you ain't
I
lying.
didn't even think about that, Chang. Oh my goodness.
You
That
ain't
was
You're gonna
lying.
open up a new door, whole
I
new.
know,
I know,
damn.
right? No, yeah, to talk more about that, I think that's like I didn't even think about that till now. I
Yeah.
think that's I
Yeah.
think that's a conviction that I have too, like disliking like just the Hmong tradition and the culture. I don't know why, but I always just have this thing inside of me like I don't like Hmong people, and I not that I don't like who they are, but just because I know the culture and the beliefs that Hmong people grow up to have, and that's just something that I dislike a lot, like how they're so close minded, and how they're yeah, just like what Shane said, like they're always just trying to save their face, and that's like really something that I hate when people aren't humble about things, and when they try to like cover it up as if like they're strong and stuff. And I think that's something like our tradition, even Hmong traditions, have taught us to do as just Hmong boys. But yeah, that's super a good one, Shane. But going back to like identity of a time, like I disliked my identity, just as a person, as a whole person. I don't think I've ever like battled with it too much. Just because I've always had ambition of striving to be better and not listen to anybody. Maybe it's because maybe it comes from basketball, but I always just have that mentality that it doesn't really matter what people say, but it just matters what I say and what I do with my life. But of course, I've come to know that that's not really the whole thing that I have to, worry about, or to that's not the whole picture of identity. But I don't think I've ever had a time where I doubted or disliked my identity. But I did have times where I did doubt or dislike the way that I did stuff, because I knew the identity that I was called to. And I feel like I feel like I'm condemning you guys because like I'm bringing God in and everything,
No, you're
um,
good.
but this is my experience. Yeah. But like how example, like I knew that I was supposed to be a preacher, somebody who was to speak the gospel, but I was never confident in what I can do as that person. Like my speaking skills were not that good, even though I knew for sure that I was called to be a preacher, to be a person that was going to reach people for the gospel. Like my skills didn't just measure up to that standard. Sometimes I kind of doubted that, like, oh, like is this really my identity, because my skills doesn't match up to my calling. It doesn't match up to the identity that God has called me to be. And I think those are some things that I have like doubted or just disliked about myself and the identity that God has called me to be. But yeah, that's really my answer.
Nice. Hold on. Let me see. I think my answer or my response is similar to Chiying's, but just coming from like a female perspective. So for the first question, I don't think I've ever doubted a part of my identity or my whole identity. If anything, all I can recall is just disliking some things about being a Hmong woman because of the culture and how we are taught to be and how to act. So I don't know if other Hmong women feel the same, but I've had negative experiences that led to my opinions about about just I guess Hmong gender hierarchy and or like inequality or whatever. But that's like with my experiences, both being a Christian or going to Hmong churches, and also having traditional family. So yeah, it's just like experiences, like just being told what is expected of me, because I am a woman, how I'm expected to cook and to serve and to clean and to wait until, like this one time, I was told at a family function, like, you can't eat yet because all the men have to eat first. And I'm like, whoa, like, okay, did we not put all this hard work in for nothing, And it's not, it's situations like that made me upset. And it's not because I wanted to eat or anything. It's just more like it's just like how that logic, it doesn't make sense to me, and I mean, just to be clear, it's not like I'm against doing those things. I love cooking. I love serving the people that I love, and it's just like the idea of being expected of what to do that makes me dislike that part of our culture. And it makes me feel like as if that's the only thing that I'm like set to do, or what my role is, I mean, because being Hmong is definitely a big part of my identity, because I am Hmong, but to just be in that kind of environment and just experiencing that, and just having that being expected to do things like that because I am a woman, it makes me feel like a little degraded and a little like that's what you're all meant for. And so I think that's like one of my biggest problems growing up, is that it's that part. Yeah, I don't know if other Hmong women feel this way, but yeah.
Good, different perspective.
Yeah, really good.
But man, Cheyenne, you just opened this different portal. Like, I'm
Hey,
still a
man.
little dazed by it.
Changes with
Literally
the
like
fire.
a week ago, I had to go to a Jingle Bell thing, and my mom is like, "You have to go because it's family." So,
Because like what I wrote down had to do like about this, like our data, like my identity as a leadership in a leadership position. But when you brought that up, and man, I just thought freestyling right now real quick. But
that's a whole nother podcast.
I know
That's a whole other podcast.
No,
I didn't even think about that until Cheyenne brought it up, because I guess like it's something that I don't really want to like. It's not that I didn't want to talk about it, but it was just like, oh, I guess sometimes I just brush it off because like, oh, like you should like stop bringing it up,
Yeah.
But it's nice that we brought it up though, because I mean, is that really what identifies us or not,
Yeah.
And clearly, like it, from what we've been hearing, we, I guess just that aspect of the culture, is just something that a lot of us don't agree with. Yeah.
I think I think from what we've been discussing, I think we realize like it isn't like our true identity, and that goes with like our true identity is through God, and yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
but we experience all that, so so we know how it feels like.
And I guess I wanted to bring up one thing. I don't think we're saying anything about like okay, so there are some things about us, like the Hmong culture, that is very unique and nice too, right?
Oh, definitely.
I don't think we're saying
definitely.
anything about
We're
like,
not bashing on them.
Yeah. I don't think we're saying anything about that, but like just being Hmong, there's something about it, because like you could be a Christian, like, but like how big our parents, like our parents are from a different
Generation, yeah.
generation, right?
Yeah.
So like they're listening, like a certain way, and and they still carry that with them, like from how they were raised by their parents too. So I don't think it's
Yep.
anything to do with like the like whether you're Christian or shaman or whatnot. I mean anything like that, but it's definitely I don't know what it's called actually, but you guys get on.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
I
get
don't
you.
think it's
Yeah.
anything that we're bashing on the Hmong culture. So if for anyone
Definitely not.
listening, we're not bashing on the Hmong culture as
Yeah.
a whole,
We
but
love Hmong culture and traditions.
Yes, I love my Hmong food, and I appreciate all that. So,
We
but yeah,
can't give up that sticky rice.
no, sticky rice, Hmong sauce, and that pork belly. That's all I need, and some pepper
Pepper,
and
that
Sweet
pepper.
pork.
that sweet
Always
pork.
good food, man.
Okay, see, we're forever Hmong because we love the food right there. But no, I think a lot of us, like everyone, you guys definitely brought a lot of good different point of views. Just about a lot of struggles that I think a lot of different people go through, and a lot of us share, and that's great because now like we're here to help each other and we can relate. And man, like hold on, still a little mind blowing, just gathering myself. Okay, like I said, like what I wrote down was originally like a time that I doubted my identity or just like a factor, a characteristic about me was I kind of mentioned it was I didn't have confidence in like my leadership. I think for me, being in the position I am, like I think growing up, my parents always kind of like force me and my brother to try to be leaders. They kept saying, "You got to be number one. You got to be number one. You got to be the top dog. You got to be the one who leads everyone." I think pushing that like winning culture onto me and my brother kind of led us to be rivals, and we always bumped heads where we felt like we had to be better than one another. And so I think going towards that, then like when you mix it with the Hmong culture, being the younger brother, you should never overstep your older brother, no matter what, in that kind of sense. So I guess like I was always getting mixed like views because I know like do I be number one, but then yet I can't be number one over my brother. So I was always kind of like stuck in the shadow growing up, and I think that's what made me feel like I was never really good enough to be a leader because no matter what, I'm always gonna be a number two. Apparently, that was the culture I was getting from my parents. So I think that's what made it so hard for me to really be willing to step up and like lead in anything from sports to being, part of the youths or, being the position I am now. I would have never thought from like 10 years ago that I would be here I am with TCNY. Like I always say that, but it is honest the truth. Like if y'all saw the lifestyle that I lived back then, all the dislike I had about the Hmong culture and just everything, how we're going, like I wanted nothing to do with churches, like or anything, like man, I was like in a dark spot. I was like that moment if y'all watch Naruto, when Sasuke was just like trying to kill his brother Itachi, and he was just like always trying to be like find all this hate and become strong through using hatred. Like that was me, that was the position I was in, and like I just felt like I had to be better than my brother. I hated my brother because I wanted to be better than him, and all this stuff, and like just during that time period, I think that was so rough, and I just like that part of my life so much because like I feel like I missed a lot of like different good times and opportunities that I could have taken. But I do appreciate those trials because I think they really helped me mature and grow and be able to handle myself. I guess it opened a different perspective. Like I said, because God definitely moves in mystical ways. He plays a very like while you're playing checkers, he's playing chess. He moves pieces that you didn't know even existed. He opened doors that you probably never even see yourself in. And I think to be able to see his work happen like live, it's pretty amazing. And I think everyone brought a definitely good point of view. I don't want to jump into that Hmong topic because that's a whole different section. but no, I think it was great and just beautiful how everyone brought like different points. And whoever is listening, just know you're not alone. But yes, man. All right. Chan, you still got me. I'm still buzzed. but um, so moving forward to my last question for this podcast. I think what it encouraged me or inspired me to bring this question is because I think a lot of times that when we talk about identity, sometimes we don't share everything. We only share what we want people to see, and like sometimes we're afraid of revealing like who we truly are. I think in the last question we talked about a lot of dislikes or things that we didn't like about certain times, but I think it also could mean like there's something that we're hiding because we don't want people to know because in case we feel shameful about. But so my last question for this group is, what is something you wish people knew about you?
I think people may know this already, but some may not. But um, I am definitely a lot more observant. I don't know if people really do know about that or know that about me or not, but um, like a lot of times, like if I'm not saying anything, I think people might think I'm like just be petty about that or whatnot, but I'm actually just observant. Like some things I just don't have an opinion on, so I'm not going to say anything. I try to avoid that small talk. um, let's see here. I think what I really wish people would like. I really wish people would know that I didn't like just become the person I am overnight. Like if it seems like my life is in line, like it's perfect or not, it's actually not. um, just, just kidding. But um, like it took me a bit to get here to where I am today. So like Jay, you were talking earlier about like I would never thought that I would be here, but serving the team, right? Um, like for example, serving in TCNY, it took me years, and it took me like I had to go through so much heartache, hard work, tears, and perseverance, like leading within my own local church. Just I didn't even think that I would ever be a part of like the team too, just because I didn't know anything about it, right? But again, it took me. I didn't just become this person overnight. It took me. Just know that it took me forever and a lot of work. um, and not just like the good things too, but the bad things too. I think like when I am not angry, but if I am upset about something, I'm not just upset out of like for no reason. Like I definitely like try to have reasoning behind it too. There are like there are in, if I'm upset at you, you might have done something to really have upset me. But I mean, I'm not trying to say like, oh, that's okay. It's okay to feel that way. But yeah, that's just something I just came up with.
Can I just be very simple?
Go for it.
Okay.
But
But what?
I said,
Okay.
it can be simple, but just try to make it meaningful still. But
I don't know how to make this meaningful, but I guess with me, I really don't care about things in general. Like that's just me. Like I'm the type of person that, oh, if it happens, it happens. Like, your opinion is on you. Well, people's opinions on them. Well, I guess you could say I'm an introvert. Well, not really an introvert. I'm an ambivert. That's, if you guys don't know what that is, it's both introvert and extrovert, but it just comes down to the situation at times. And yeah, I like to have my own time by myself. I don't care about what other people think about me. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I don't know. I don't know how to make this meaningful or deep. Like I grew up, like I said earlier, I grew up not having a lot of friends. So I learned to be there for myself. I guess you could use that.
Got you. I got you. We'll just put down he's single and ready to mingle.
For reals, right?
I'm
Adam's ready.
single and I like it that way. Jay, you can edit all that out. I know what I'm gonna say now. So like, you know, like I said earlier, I grew up not having a lot of friends, so I learned to be there for myself. I learned to like, you know, just be there when, especially when like I literally have no one else, and you know, just be in the presence of God too, which is like, you know, people are always like, oh, isn't it hard to go through things alone? Be like, yeah, but at the same time, you learn to grow from it, and you learn that it's very important for when nobody's there that like you have to be there for yourself, because the one that is gonna get you up is yourself. You know, the one that is gonna keep continuing is yourself. And people may come and go in your life, but you yourself is the only one that's gonna be there for you. So I learned to really be there, like truly be there for myself, you know, and for me to understand that as like, you know, we talk about identity. What is our identity, and how we portray that is like, it comes down to, you know, how we portray that in God's eye. How do we portray that as you know, as a Christian, and how we portray that as like, you know, just being there for ourselves and for others too. So yep, that's my answer. You know, move on.
Hey, Adam. Adam, you
Yeah.
got us, man.
Mhm.
You have us. We're here
Dang,
for you.
this whole time he said he didn't have us. You already used to
I
that?
know.
We're not his friends.
Yeah, we're not-
Adam, don't consider us friends, guys.
I guess something I wish people knew about me is that I do have my own battles. I mean, I'm sure everyone has their own battles, but I like to, or I try to, put on a face where it seems like everything's okay, and sometimes it kind of just eats at me. Um, and then another thing I wish people knew is that I'm really scared to be judged by other people, especially because since I'm a pastor's kid, it's, you know, I have a lot of expectations, or at least I think people have high expectations of me, and I'm really scared to disappoint them. So yeah.
I tried to come up with something meaningful for this, but I'm pretty. I feel like I'm pretty open. I don't really hide anything. But I guess I'm kind of in the same boat as Adam for the whole how to be there for yourself, because you know, my dad left me way before I was born. Like, he went to go remarry, so it's just me and my mom most of the time, and she's usually off at work for like 12 hours. So I kind of just stuck at home and learn how to do things for myself and learn how to cook. Um, Secretly really enjoy cooking. So
Oh.
that's it for me. I don't really have much.
Chayin can cook and he's single.
He's cooking, he's single, guys.
He's like vocal pie, man. We never knew.
For me, what is something that I wish people would know about me is that I am really for people. And by what I mean by people, I really mean like I am for people, that I am for you. Not just to come off as if I'm nice or wanting you to think that I'm nice, just because you may be new or you may not be a part of the circle yet. Because I think that sometimes a lot of people would think that I'm just being nice to just get nice and get over it, to meet them and get over it. But I really am genuinely for people, and I want to see people win. And that's something that I wish that people would know about me. Like a couple of days ago, I went to work. with my shift lead. That it was just me and him, and we were talking about like what is the difference between being a barista, which is what they call us, and our shift leads, which kind of takes over the shifts. And he was talking about like correcting people was one of the hardest thing that he has to do to take the lead in the shifts. And along the lines, he told me that he just wanted to help people get better. And I think that, and I've seen him correct people, and people like came at the wrong way at him. And I've seen that like that was never his intention, was to condemn somebody or to dehumanize them or whatever. But his intention was to help them. And I think that's something that I wish people would know about me, that if they could see from my perspective that I just want to help you and I am for you and I am not against you, that would make them, have such a different, more attitude and see from a different perspective. So like to anybody out there that's listening to this, to all the youth, that whenever you're getting corrected by a leader, or even young adults, when you're getting corrected by a leader, that it's not that they don't like you, that they hate you, but that they want to see you do better, and they want to do, and they do that by correcting you, because we all know that if love is telling people the truth, if we don't tell people the truth, then we're not really loving them. And I think that's something I wish that people would know about me, that I am really for people, that I'm not just here to be nice, to have a show, but I'm really here for people. So yeah.
I feel that.
I totally see that in you, Kyle.
Yeah.
And I think it's very genuine. It's a very genuine trait of you that I think a lot of us see, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. So like, just coming from experience with you, Kyle, like, because I know like my youth kids, they definitely feel that, like, and they experience that with you too. So I appreciate that and I adore that about you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I mentioned this before in like a different podcast or I forgot what, but it's basically the same answer. I think a lot of people. Wait, what was the question? What is something you wish people know? Oh, I think mine's pretty simple. I think a lot of people view me as quiet and shy, and maybe not approachable. But honestly, for me, it just takes time to warm up, and I think I can get pretty talkative. You just gotta catch me at the right time.
She's very funny and she's single.
Oh my god.
The plug is there too.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, I feel like I don't know, I guess I just feel like people don't think I'm approachable, but I am. Come talk to me. Really chill. I'm not saying that I'm cool or anything. I'm just saying I'm relaxed for the most part, and that's probably why a lot of people don't see me talking, because I guess I'm too relaxed. But yeah, and like Chrissy said, I guess that's like the observant side of me too. But other than that, yeah, I think I can get pretty talkative and joke too much when it's sometimes not necessary or not appropriate. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
If you were just afraid because you come with a +1, they're not ready to talk to Nancy. I think something I wish people knew about me is I'm very petty. I think I'm low-key very petty. I think that's something I'm willing to admit. Like, not in a sense petty where like I'm gonna do something like towards you, or I'm gonna like slander you or wish you to fail. I think I can be petty in a sense of like, dang, how do I put it in a good way?
You bicker.
It's a hard one to come up with.
You bicker a lot.
I don't even know how to put it in the best way. Well, I guess the best way I could just put it is I'm petty in a sense of where if I feel that, I don't know, in a sense, like if you're doing your best or something, then I'm going to get on you because I know that you can do more than what you're portraying now. Or I'm petty in a sense if I feel like I don't know. it might seem selfish to say, but like I feel like if I've been there for you and I supported you through moments and you've never turned to offer helping hand to me in my struggles, then I'm petty in a sense where like I question my friendship with people like that. So I guess because like I think I forgot who mentioned it, but somehow they said where they feel that people don't like, I don't know. Dang it, I totally lost my train of thought. But it has something to do with like, like people just think like you're mean or like you give the same energy off that someone gives you. It's like if you're good to me, I'm good to you. But then like if you don't ever like check in on me, or if I'm always putting the 100% in and you're not giving anything back, then I just think that I should cut you off, because that may seem like mean and stuff to say, but I honestly believe like for a friendship to work, it's a give and take, like you help each other. If I give you 100, I expect you like to give 100 back to me, be real with me. And if I'm the one that's putting 100 in and you're not even like looking my way, because in a sense, I feel like you're just using me in that sense. So that makes me petty.
No, I get that. That's understandable.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I've
that is.
personally been through that too. So you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not the only one feeling like that sometimes.
But Jay, I don't like you. Are you gonna be petty against me now?
No. I'm petty in a sense, like if I was to
I'm just kidding.
go all out for Adam, right? Like say I bought Adam a plane ticket to come to Orlando with a girl or something. And then when it came to like I need Adam to do something for me and he's like, no. Then I become paid towards Adam.
Like, hey, you need to come to camp? I'll buy you a ticket and I'll pay for your camp fee.
Pretty much, just
Can-
don't play our
Can we get that on
president,
paper? Let's get that on paper.
Somebody sign it.
It's recorded, dude.
Yeah. But thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts and opinions on what you think identity is and sharing your stories and stuff, and I hope that our information, our opinions, our stories are able to help influence who all is listening, and just know that we are here for you as a family, TCNY, like we
Yes.
are here to support you. You got great people here, you got great leadership. Like I said, we're all great, funny people and single, and we're all ready to meet people and just help be a family. And so, I just want to thank you guys, for tuning in, and just join us next time when we break the bread.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us.